If you had to run on rubber today, what would be your choice?
Well, looking at the conditions out there at the moment, I would go for probably an intermediate. But I'm sure there's plenty of them on full wets.
Let's have a look how they'll line up. And there we go. Johnny Bower, really sensational. Gee whiz, he put in some good laps to take the pole position. Mark Scaife, then we go to Glenn Seton, Jimmy Richards. So the two Winfield cars are sitting there. Then it's Dick Johnson, who also did some pretty good laps after some early problems. Thomas Mazira, Crompton, Gardner as they line up. So interesting. Larry Perkins back a little bit. Alan Jones is back a little bit. Peter Brock certainly back on row 6. And Craig Lowndes, a young man who, of course, drove with Brad Jones so well at Bathurst. Then it's Ashby and Jones, Finnegan, and Phil Ward is here too. In a Holden this time around, we've used to seeing him drive a 2-litre Mercedes-Benz, but running a Holden, Speed and McCall, that's how they bring up the grid. Yeah, no doubt about that. But, well, 15 laps, 57 kilometres. And some of the quick boys in the middle of the field. Wow, the first dash to the first corner. That's going to be pretty good. Phil Ward in the Commodore I talked about. Gee whiz, he's had a busy year. Did so well in the 2-litre series in that Mercedes-Benz. He really livened that up.
Had a good run at Bathurst in this particular car. This is his first run, and looking forward to a result today.
Glenn Seton in the PJ car number 1. The two Winfield Commodores there. And of course, Peter Brock back a bit there. Gardner's cars along with Crompton. Terrifically turned out the Coca-Cola cars. They look sensational. FAI been terrific with Dick Johnson this year, and he's rewarded them with a Bathurst win. Glenn Seton, always pretty quick around here. Hasn't been the happiest hunting ground for him, although he has won here. And racing now, look at them getting underway now, as you can see the power go down to Scaife. Scaife comes up on the inside. Look at this. Johnny Bower has to give way, and Scaife takes the first corner.
Great start by Scaife. Just enough horsepower on the throttle. Look at them filter through that S-bend there. Fortunately, there's no moments. Oh, Scaife a little bit taily there.
Pretty hard to see with all the spray that's flying at the moment. Jimmy Richards bumps himself up into 3rd place. The two Winfield cars sandwiched there. Johnny Bower in behind them as Glenn Seton. Peter Brock now charging, trying to come in past the Coca-Cola car. As I can see, and I would think that was Wayne Gardner, actually. So he's having a bit of a tussle with Gardner. They've had a couple of comes together during the season. Phil Ward, Thomas Mazira comes through. Now the pack settles down a little bit, so slippery. They're all tippy-toey. Very
tippy-toey. The Yokohamas at Bathurst were sensational for the first couple of laps. Scaife got out in front and went like a blur, and looks like the same thing's happening here, Darryl.
Larry Perkins now, he's up behind Peter Brock, and there's no love lost there. Well, they go. One of the Coke cars, and Phil Ward into the wall too. Some damage there on the Commodore. That's definitely Phil Ward. Well, I think he's out of it, Phil Ward. Oh, dear, dear, dear. And that was Neil Crompton also. In car number 7, the Coca-Cola team. They had the touch and both went off.
It's very difficult, these conditions, Darryl. I'd say the majority of them have gone for an intermediate tyre and, hoping that the track's going to dry as the race goes on. A few sparks there.
On the technophone to the pit saying, get me some new body parts. 15 laps, and already we've had some carnage, only to be expected around here. If you're going to get into trouble, you're certainly going to bash something. Perkins now, he starts to make a move, but Johnny Bower up front now from Mark Scaife. So while all that action was going on, Johnny Bower's hit the front. Scaife comes up, in behind him, tucks up, and makes a lot of ground under brakes then.
John's in the perfect position. Nothing like being out in front. You've got no mist throwing at your windscreen, see exactly where you're going, know where the apexes are for the corner, and there's nothing worse when you're chasing. Here's this accident.
Here's the replay. Have a look.
I think that's Thomas Mazira in the front there, and Thomas has had a bit of a moment there and got off the throttle, and of course everyone's gone sideways, and unfortunately Crompton spun to try and avoid that accident. It was just a bit unfortunate, but chain reaction. Where
Phil Ward went off there was where Mark Scaife went off in the Nissan a couple of years ago and had a real big one, if you remember.
Flipped the car over, if I remember.
Certainly did. Okay, that's Mark Scaife we talk about this time in a Holden. And Johnny Bower in the Ford up in front. Now it's Jimmy Richards up into 3rd place. Losing a little bit of ground to these two, but Jimmy Richards loves driving in with a wet track. Well,
Richo was always the one they used to say had the web feet and does a sensational job in these cars. And I guess Richo's the guy that now, what are we having? Look down inside there, a bit of a touch.
This is on board from Alan Jones's point of view of the accident. As you can see, Jonesy's just huffed and puffed his way through there and thought, dude, I got away with it.
Poor old Crompton won't be a happy camper after watching that. But unfortunately, that all started when it was the mobile car had a bit of a moment, lifted off the throttle, missed the apex, and of course, you know, they had the concertina effect there.
So Johnny Bower still out in front, chased by the Winfield cars. Glenn Seton has made some ground up. Oh,
there goes Scapey.
He just starts to dance, and he's going to hit the wall. No doubt about that. Down the escape road, and it just locked up and went sideways. Mark Scape, I don't think he did hit anything.
Well, it's hard for us to tell, isn't it, Daryl? But Scapey, in these conditions, you use a lot of rear brake because you lock a front brake, you go straight into whatever you're pointed towards. So we tend to screw a bit of rear brake on. Unfortunately, here's Scapey here, hasn't hit anything.
Unbelievable, he just went sideways.
Jumped on the brakes, look at the back of the car, locked them up, see the wheels are stop turning at the back, and of course, around he's gone.
A hairy moment for Mark Scape down the escape road.
That'd be a terrible feeling, wouldn't it? Backwards down there.
Terrific, these cars around here, no doubt about it. Always plenty of action, Scape now.
And he'll charge back. Pressing on, you know, Scapey's get right back into it, and that won't deter him one little bit. He'll be working hard to get back through the field on this one. Round past Trevor Ashby, one of the great privateers in touring car racing, certainly tries hard. Well, Johnny Bower now, look at the lead he's got on Jimmy Richards. He's got a very nice buffer now, JB. There's always a lot of action here, isn't there, Daryl? Every year, you know, there's plenty of excitement, plenty of moments, and this year's certainly not letting us down. I love these things around here. They are great. And Glenn Seton now, he starts to close up on Jimmy Richards. That's the dice at the moment because Johnny Bower's got that little break in front. Richards now, there's Seton. He's come a fair way to get on the tail of Jimmy Richards. Glenn's car's working very nicely. Usually you have to stay off the painted curbs in this weather because your car doesn't get any grip on them and they're so slippery they tend to make you spin around. But Glenn's car's working very well and he's capable of driving on those curbs and making inroads into Richo here. Glenn Seton, the beautifully turned out PJ car. Scape is up to 9th place again. So he's really got the hammer down at the moment. So is Glenn Seton as they blast their way down the straight. Moves over to the centre of the track. Now he tucks in behind Jimmy Richards. I think this is Wayne Gardner going pretty well too. We saw Neil Crompton go off at his Gardner, so he drives pretty well around this circuit. He won the last race here. Last year, his last drive with the Holden Racing team, he won, and he's doing a great job in the Coke car. By now, everyone's tyres have got up to operating temperature because some of them probably heated up a little bit faster. You'll find they're all probably on the same cut, be it intermediate or full wet. And now we're having a bit of action here. Look at this. Glenn Seton really putting the pressure on Jimmy Richards. Now the big Falcon takes on the Holden. Gardner tries to stay in touch. Alan Jones is moving up there. I just saw a flash of blue in behind there, so he's in the second PJ car. Up there's a good aerial shot as you watch under acceleration. The hard thing the passing in the wet, you'd think it'd be quite easy, but unfortunately, they're pumping the water off and putting up a bit of a dry line. And what's happening here is you're braking on the dryish line and then you pull over to the wet line to pass them, and of course, you know, you lose adhesion. So catching them's one thing, passing is another. Well, you can see there, Glenn Seton really made some distance up in that area under brakes. Well, you know, the Falcon is working very good in that area, and you know, he's getting into the corners much better. Jim's run a little wide there, missed the apex, allowed Glenn to close right up, and he's ready to attack. Marvellous stuff looking down on this terrific battle between Glenn Seton and Jimmy Richards. Jimmy Richards was always the acknowledged reign master in touring car racing in this country, but Glenn Seton doing a terrific job. Puts the Falcon up on the inside now and gets plenty of bumbo. And what about that for a passing move in the wet? What a ripper. Sensational manoeuvre. The Bridgestone's obviously working very well, and Jonesy's closing up to Gardner. There's be quite a tussle here in a second. Well, Johnny Bower is out in front in the Dick Johnson racing team Falcon, but this is where the action is. Jones now, that's him. He's made a fair ground, or bit of ground up on Wayne Gardner. But look at the grunt of the Holden now. Down comes Jonesy, looking down from the chopper. Terrific pictures here at Adelaide. And have a look at the people around this place. They are everywhere. They don't want to worry about the rain. Now Jones comes right up on the Wayne Gardner. Gardner not the easiest guy to get past. He's a full-blown competitor. Richo looks to be slowing them down a little bit, holding them up a tiny bit here. His car is sliding around a bit. He's working very hard at keeping that car on the track. Now, he could have gone for a full wet and it's starting to go off a little bit now, and he's just you know, working as hard as he can to get the maximum amount of adhesion out of his tyres, but it's keeping him very busy.
Great move from Glenn Seton. Gee, that was sensational stuff. Alan Jones now, you can see, trying to get past Gardner. Gardner just trying to keep in touch with Jimmy Richards. He gets up behind him in areas, but hasn't got enough grunt to get past him. As you can see, the Winfield Commodore's got plenty of power as he drives it away from Gardner. Now Jones coming up in behind Gardner again. AJ loves these cars, and he'd love these conditions too. And look at Jones right up beside Gardner now. And can he get inside? I would think so. Oh, you don't go much closer, AJ, and does exactly the same move that Glenn Seton pulled off.
Well, you know, the Falcon and the Bridgestone, they've got a nice suspension package operating in that car at the moment. Jonesy was saying before when he went down, they'd found a couple of things on the car that they weren't happy with, and looks like it's working well now, Darryl.
Oh, that's great stuff. Don't you just love them round here? And as I said, you really get an idea of the people scattered around this circuit. And it's been raining here for a couple of hours now, but they're here. It's Johnny Bower, Seton, Richards, Jones and Gardner. They're the top runners.
And Richo's still having a little bit of trouble. He's missing those apexes, and I think he's about to become Alan Jones's next victim. Yeah,
Jonesy starts to stalk him now. Larry Perkins has come up along with Dick Johnson to get on the end of this group of cars.
Oh, Richo's gone over that ripple strip there.
Well, this is going to allow Jones through, and it does too. No doubt about it. So Jonesy goes up into third place now. Richards comes back. But Jones has got the inside lane. Gardner now tries to take advantage of that. Larry Perkins is giving him some hurly-durly, and in behind him is Dick Johnson.
They're all nice and close here, and Glenn Seton isn't getting away. So, you know, he'll be the next one on Jonesy's shopping list. They're just working so hard to get past Richo. He's for a few of these. You know, they're all closing up now. Larry's right there. He's all over Gardner. She's about to make a move on him, I say. Larry
Perkins, doesn't he love this place? He'll hustle and muscle his way through, no doubt about that. But Gardner, well, Gardner's a great competitor. We know how good he was in two wheels. He's won here. He's been driving pretty well throughout the season, and he'll never get up and give up a place without a good fight going on. Now, Larry Perkins comes up behind him, and Jimmy Richards has just got a little bit of distance on Gardner now. But look at Perkins. As we look down on Perkins now, the two Commodores. Interesting to see here, two engine builders, and Larry's car certainly got the power. But Gardner, as I said, will hold him. Gardner said, you want me? You're going to chase me around the long way, and one went off.
Well, it looked like Dick Johnson was going to go off there. I think he gathered it up. Oh, no, it's Jim Richards.
Jimmy Richards waves to the crowd and the marshals there. Let's see how the cars come through. So Jimmy Richards really skated off very quickly out of our picture. This is Glenn Seton, Alan Jones.
And a sensational drive from Jonesy. He started 10th, he's up to 3rd. You know, to do that in the dry would be almost impossible, and it's, you know, these conditions suit that aggressive driving style.
Look at Perkins, look at Johnson now. He comes into the act too as Gardner gets a bit sideways. Wasn't that typical of Gardner, though? If you're going to go round, we go round the outside the long way.
Well, that's right. He certainly learned from when Jonesy ducked down the inside of him. He blocked Larry off there, and he's trying as hard as he can. Mind you, so is Larry, and it should be interesting the next couple of laps.
Through some traffic they go now. Larry Perkins gets the inside run. He should really take Gardner here. Gardner's let him up on the inside. Dick Johnson comes up there as well. Gardner's pretty wide. Larry's going to get him. Dick Johnson, no, sir, can't do it this time as Gardner chops him off. Larry gets a little sideways. Oh, boy, Larry doesn't mind the tail snapping about. We saw that at Bathurst.
Larry's car is very strong. That was interesting then to watch him pass Gardner, just pulled out and passed him down the straight. So Wayne's probably hurting a little bit for horsepower, but Larry certainly got a nice balance in his car. He's put a little bit of distance between himself and Wayne, and now he'll be off chasing Jonesy.
Oh, Larry's just said, see you later. Once he's got past, he really is starting to motor. And look at the way they come round that bottom corner, back onto the start-finish line straight now. They really wind them up here, and then they just throw them through. Terrific action here, the touring cars. I love them up here on this circuit. Johnny Bower, this is Glenn Seton. Alan Jones is starting to catch Seton now. Larry Perkins comes through. Then it's Gardner. Then it's Johnson. Oh, boy, this is a good battle.
They're actually closing up a little bit at the front there, I think, Darryl, and that should make for quite an interesting race. We've still got a fair few laps to chew through yet. And if Glenn and Alan Jones can get a little bit closer, I think they'll put a bit of pressure on JB.
Well, Johnny Bower's been doing it pretty well out in front. He's had a clear track to work on, and this rain has definitely eased back. As you can see, it's still enough to keep the wipers going, but to me, the track is drying out in places.
It most definitely is, but on the track, it's not so bad. They're not actually driving and looking for the wet spots at the moment. They're just nice move by Dick Johnson to slide down the inside of Wayne there.
Well, Dickie Johnson goes through and lets it get a bit snappy on the back. Gardner must be getting sick of getting passed up the inside. That's 3 that have got him now in a similar sort of move. And look at the ground that Johnson's made on him. Comes out there and just keeps the boot into it.
It's interesting to have a look at Larry and Johnson. They're both driving very sideways, you know, and so is Wayne to a certain degree. They're pedaling the cars. It's interesting to see they're, what's he doing here, 114 kilometres, braking. Gee, I don't know whether that's right.
This is out of Dick Johnson's car, by the way. The telemetry coming out of that. Terrific stuff, and we'll try and give you a look at that as he goes sideways again. Oh, Dick, he's got plenty of oversteer on. Just letting it have its head.
Well, you know, he's just driving the car so hard. You can actually see where they're getting a little bit of a dry line through here.
Again, coming out of Johnson's car.
Interesting stuff, Darryl. On the brakes here.
Yeah, but it ain't working too good at the moment. Now it starts to work and we see it happening. So let's come back and watch the action. These cars sideways round here. Oh, wow. I just love them. So Dickie Johnson now, he improves and gets a little distance on Wayne Gardner. You can see staying really so far over to go through this chicane here. Look at Larry Perkins now. He's on the charge up behind Jonesy. Now here's a couple of old pugs that'll have a street fight.
Certainly really having a go. Look at Larry's car ducking and diving under brakes there. He missed the apex a little bit, but he'll certainly let Jonesy know he's there. And Larry's really pressing on. This is a great drive by him.
Oh, yeah, Larry like a dog with a bone now as he gets on the back of Jonesy's car. But Jonesy's not the easiest guy in the world to get past either. But they'll have a brawl, these two, no doubt about it. They love the competition, and they both love driving these V8s. Big handful here on the wet track, but what a race. 8 laps have gone by now, so there's still plenty of time.
Only at half race distance, and the interesting thing is, Jonesy up on a curb. That would have cost him a bit of time there, as we can see. We've got a Dunlop, Bridgestone, then 2 more Dunlop cars. So, and the 2 Dunlop cars a little further back are really pressing on. Larry's and Dick are quite sideways. He's pulled out and passed Jonesy here.
Larry now gets up on the inside of Jones. He's certainly got some mumbo down there. Larry Perkins blasts his way past Alan Jones. And Jonesy really had no answer to the power. Watch this under brakes now. Side by side they are, but Larry's got him. And Dick Johnson's moved right up now.
Well, Jonesy's about to feel a little like Wayne Gardner did 5 minutes ago, I think. He's been caught by these two quite fast, and, you know, they're really pressing on, doing a great job.
This has been a wonderful drive so far from Larry Perkins. There's AJ. You can see the work that he's doing on the wheel there. Just got to be so delicate.
In the wet, everything's has to be so gentle and so smooth. And Jonesy did a great job to get from 10th up to where he is. Look, he's very relaxed, very calm. I bet his heart's racing, but you know, it's smoothness is the only way to get around quickly, which it's a little surprising. You look the way Larry and Dick are driving sideways, and usually that's a little bit slower in the wet, but you know, they've got the goods here.
Larry lifting wheels there, no trouble at all.
Well, he's getting traction and the track's drying, and obviously, you know, his tyre choice is now starting to work, where Alan Jones is starting to suffer a little bit, I think, because the track's probably drying out a little.
Bow Seton, Perkins, Johnson, and you can see that dry line starting to emerge now. So this is where the tyres will really come into play. Those who have made the right choice of cut are really going to come in now, and Larry Perkins just throwing the Holden around. Unbelievable. 7 laps to go, plenty of time, and Perkins really looks good round here. He's lifting wheels, he's letting it go sideways. Oh, Larry, we love you. And Adelaide, he always turns it on.
I'm having a little bit of trouble working out exactly what tyre Larry's got here. He's either got a full wet on and it's starting to go off, or he's got an intermediate on and he's heating them up. I mean, and they're starting to work well, because his progress is very good through the field, and he's still, you know, hitting the curbs and pressing on.
Well, what about Dick Johnson too? I've never seen Dick get so sideways. That thing's just snapping around the circuit here. Back with Jonesy. Look at the look on the face. He's thinking, what am I doing here? Trying to do the best he can to get to Larry Perkins. Dick Johnson all over the back of him.
The thing is, in the wet, Darryl, you know, when you lock a brake or have a bit of a moment, you've got so much time, you can usually go, oh, the brake's locked, get off the brake, get back on again and pull the car up. Where in the dry you do that, you know, you speed down the escape road.
Looking at Dickie Johnson now, the face of the driver, the race face as they call it, as you can see, and there is AJ. So you can see this intensity all over the face. Jonesy trying to just let it go around. Larry, look at Larry Perkins. Boy, oh boy, we haven't seen the tourists get so sideways for a while. Well, not since the first couple of hours of Bathurst, anyway.
And he's cut that lead Glenn's got probably in half in 2 laps. So we're just a bit over half race distance, and you know, there's plenty of laps, plenty of action. There's Gardner. You just caught that in the corner of the screen, overshooting the chicane.
There he is.
Not damaged the car at all, but probably a few anxious seconds in there, I'd say.
Wayne Gardner, the ex-motorcycle champ, really got involved with touring cars with the Holden Racing team, and then decided to go on his own. Coca-Cola support has been absolutely sensational. Beautifully turned out cars, and he's had a pretty good first year. It's a pretty hard job to drive and own the team, so he's done a good job. But this man does the same job. He owns the team and drives, so there's a lot of pressure on it.
There is a lot of pressure, and you know, today a lot has come down to tyre selection. We saw how fast the Winfield cars were at the start of the race. You know, they're back in 7th and 9th place at the moment, so obviously they're in a little bit of tyre trouble because the cars were so fast yesterday in the dry. At the moment, the Dunlop's in front. You know, the Bridgestones of the Glen Seton team were working very well in the wetter conditions. They're still going quite fast, but they're actually getting passed by some of the people they passed. So it's quite, the Dunlop is obviously the tyre to have at the moment.
Glen Seton, Larry Perkins, Alan Jones, Dick Johnson.
Oh, Jonesy, a bit of a moment there under brakes.
So Jonesy's got the lights on. Larry's got the wheels in the air. I said Glen Seton's got the lights on. And Larry's just picking up wheels all over the place. Johnson and Jonesy have had a fairly good dice here. Jonesy just covering his tracks pretty well, and Johnson just trying to stay as close to him as he can. So it's been a good dice. There's that dry line we talked about. It's starting to emerge here on this track. The rain has eased. You can see they're not throwing the spray back that they were. Still got to have the wipers going, but it's certainly a lot better than it was. 11 gone, 5 to go.
Of course, the other problem, Daryl, is as you start to develop a dry line, if you do lock a brake like Alan did or have a bit of a moment, all of a sudden you're back on a very wet part of the circuit as opposed to the dry line. So you have to be aware of that and be quite careful and make sure you stay on that line when you're braking. And, of course, passing now becomes even that little bit tougher.
Wonderful drive from Larry Perkins. He's sitting in behind Glen Seton. He's come from a long way back on the grid and really showed plenty of aggression. See the power go down the car. She gets a bit snappy around the back, and you can see the front just bogged down with the power, but he's certainly reeling in Glen Seton.
He is. I think another couple of laps or maybe even sooner he'll be on top of Glen. A lot will depend on, you know, how the conditions change, of course, but we're looking forward to a pretty interesting dice for second. And of course there's first car, John Bower, just in front. Look at that, Larry. Sensational car control.
Isn't that fantastic? I mean, we've all driven cars in the rain on the streets around your home and that, and this guy is just letting the car really work. Now, he was 9th on the grid, Larry Perkins. He's now made his way up behind Glen Seton, challenging for 3rd. Seton gets a little bit on him again. But Larry Perkins is a fantastic engineer and builds a lot of cars here in Australia, so he really has to sort of divide his time as Johnson now makes another dash up the inside. There's Jonesy. Oh, they come together. Johnson got on the inside. Jonesy tried to turn in and came together. So AJ out of business at the moment.
And looks like he stalled the car there. She fires up now and he's away. Oh, he'll be very disappointed, Daryl.
He won't be happy, I can tell you. Have a look at this. The crowd will love him as he lights them up.
Yep, look, no smiles there. He'd be very disappointed. He was doing a good job, keeping his nose clean. Dick got in a bit deep, probably got on that wet patch I was talking about, locked up a brake and bang.
Here it is.
Yep, well, there we go, perfect. You know, Dick was on the wet part of the circuit. Jonesy was just turning in, probably not really even aware Dick was there. And, yeah, you know, Dick sort of got to the point, he's got on the brakes, he's committed. And next thing you know, there's an accident.
Jonesy shakes the head, has a look in the mirror. He would be absolutely filthy with himself. Well, and this is Johnny Bower. This is 1, 2 and 3. The real action here, Larry Perkins taking on Glen Seton. Now, I said Larry builds so many race cars, so he divides his time between building race cars and driving race cars.
And he's made a commitment next year to you know, work a bit harder on his own cars and chase another Bathurst win. And, you know, oh, here we go. Here's the in-car camera.
Now, this is on board with Dick Johnson in that little melee with Jonesy. Well, there you go. What do you see out of that? Whose fault's that?
Oh, that's not for me to say, Darryl.
Why not?
Well, I'm a driver. Who knows who you're driving for next?
Good point. Larry Perkins now right in behind Glenn Seton. Fantastic stuff. Gee whiz, this has been a drive from him. Jones is back into 7th place now. But this is where the action is as we look down on the acceleration of these cars and the braking around a really demanding circuit, the streets of Adelaide. Now he comes up, Larry Perkins, puts the nose in it, has a little look here. Seton, though, holds him out. It's only a matter of time, I think, if Larry can get the run and gets it sideways. Oh, look at that opposite lock and just keeps the boot into it.
He's doing a very good job, Larry. The car is stopping better than anything else. Oh, here's Glenn. He's having a go too now. But you notice under brakes, Larry makes all his ground up in that area. Now he's having a good go at him here, and he's got him.
Up the inside, Larry Perkins would have had enough of this round behind you. I'm sure he's in 2nd place. Now can he catch Johnny Bow? Has he got enough time?
Well, you know, there's not that many laps to go, but Larry's pace is 3 to go, and Larry has very good pace. It's hard to know what they've got on. I know I keep on harping on the point, but I'm sure he's got intermediates on. The track conditions are suiting whatever tyre selection he does have, and he is driving that car so hard.
Oh, unbelievable. Do you see the shot of it there? You can see it picking up the inside wheels. Bow, Perkins, Seton, the top 3, Johnson and Gardner, that's how they run. But Larry Perkins, the star at the moment. I suppose we're going to give raps to Johnny Bow, but he just took off and away he went. But this fellow's come from 9th on the grid, and look at this car. Can you believe the way he's letting it work?
It'll be interesting now to see JB how he responds to this. If Larry puts, pulls a couple of seconds back in the next lap or so, JB will have to respond. So, this will make for a very interesting finish to this race. Larry's driving that car so hard, and of course, JB's just had to cruise at the front.
Well, Castrol, of course, jumped in and Perkins to prepare his car, gave him the necessary financial help that he struggled to get over these years, and he's repaying them back in front of this crowd. They are hooting and hollering. Larry Perkins around. Glenn Seton has lost touch now. The lights go on. They start to flash. He's letting them know he's coming through.
He'd be just giving JB a bit of a flash to say, hey, here I am, and start watching the mirror because I'm closing in. The gap last time by was 4 seconds, and I mean, we can see that that's closing. And I'd say another lap or so will be on him. And but of course, catching John Bow and passing him are 2 different things.
Oh, exactly. And your team had to contend with that at Bathurst, of course.
Yeah, which we came up a little short, but JB's a very aggressive competitor, great driver, been around forever, and Larry will have his work cut out for him, but he's catching him quite fast. No doubt about it. Larry Perkins slams the big Holden round onto the start-finish line again. That's Johnny Bow. See, he's got quite a bit of distance, but Larry, the way that he's been closing up under brakes, he's sort of lost a bit of ground coming into that area. Now watch as we look from the chopper. This is the area that Larry Perkins has been so quick through. The car is sensational under brakes at the moment, and this is where he looks to make up most of his ground around the back of the circuit. The gap's closed to 2.1, so we've got 2 laps left, and he knocked a couple of seconds off that lap, so the last one should be a screamer, Darryl. Unbelievable. 2.1 seconds is the gap now. You can see Perkins' car just picking up that wheel again as he really throws it in behind Johnny Bow. Bow knows he's there, of course, so he's now got his eyes in the mirrors and he's going to drive a bit defensively, but Larry's just letting this thing float all around the circuit, letting the car have its head. The interesting thing is John's car hasn't gotten out of shape. Nice and smooth, everything's correct, good positioning on the track. Larry's sideways everywhere on the gas, driving the thing as hard as he can. Oh, JB's starting to go now. And, of course, Larry's catching him. Now, I would say, looking at this, John's got full wets on the car and Larry's got intermediates on because he's searching for water. He's driving across, exactly right. He's driving across to the wet part of the circuit there to keep the tyres wet. Because once they start to dry out, Larry's really going to do the business on him. So he's got to look at this now. He's got to find the water on the circuit at the same time. Look at his mirrors. This is unbelievable. He's driving his car would be like, sitting on a sponge. You can look at the car as he changes. Now, Larry will go past him here, possibly. Larry right up behind him now. He comes outside. What a drive from Perkins. He's come from 9th on the grid. Goes wide, ducks up on the inside now. It's all about acceleration. There it goes over the start-finish line. And Larry Perkins, he's got them all howling here. They've got him howling in delight.
inside. Johnny Bow, though, fights back, says no, it's not going to be that easy. And Bow hits the curb. He lifts the wheel up too. Sensational stuff at Adelaide.
It is, but I think that as good as this looks, by the time they get to the back straight, LP will get him under brakes. We're on the final lap. It's so interesting. JB's on the full wet, searching for water, and Larry's just got the grip, and he's looking for a place to pass.
Watch Johnny Bow, because what he's trying to do, as Brad is saying, he's got to find some water for the tyres. Look at Larry. Seton, almost another touch there as Larry Perkins comes up behind him. He lost some ground there. He lost plenty of ground. Now can he come back? He knows that Johnny Bow's looking for the wet part of the circuit.
What Larry needs to do is stay calm, get to the inside going onto the back straight, and he will outbrake him. Just stay calm, Larry. He will outbrake him at the end of the straight, but he's got to be right on his bumper because they're so close in horsepower. Get to the inside, and he should be able to slide by.
Jeez, what a sight these things. Sideways,
but he's not close enough.
Larry's gone. Now you can see Johnny Bow has gone over to the wetter part of the circuit. Now he comes across to cover himself from Larry Perkins. Perkins knows exactly what he's got to do. Gets in right in tight now. Can he tuck up on the inside? I'm not sure he can. Johnny Bow holds him out. Perkins now tucks up. There's a little bump. There's a touch. Gets on the inside, side by side. Ah, Larry has gone the long way round. And now Johnny Bow fights back. This is just great.
Sensational move. Larry's trying everything, and he's not going to get around there either.
Larry Perkins now gets up on the other side of him. He'll try and duck down deep and get the inside running. Loses some ground there. Johnny Bow's doing a fantastic job here. He's obviously having trouble with the tyres. Now they come up to the checkered flag. Larry has a loads of him side by side, but Johnny Bow's going to hold him out. Ah, congratulations to both drivers. That was just one of the best sprints we've seen in a long, long time.
Great race. I mean, John Bow, you know, sensational job under the conditions. Larry, what a drive. 9th on the grid, up to 2nd and all over him. Another lap. I don't think JB could have held up with the pressure, but, you know, congratulations to them both. It was a sensational drive.
Ah, it certainly was. They acknowledge the marshals, and the crowd are getting a sensational round of applause round here. And there was only 0.22 seconds at the end of that. Well, there you go. Now, of course, the Winfield car started so well, as you rightly said, they dropped back. But let's recap the places. Bow, Perkins, Seton, Johnson, Gardner and Jones. There's AJ, had that coming together. Dickie Johnson, well, his team has got up for a win, talking back to his pits now. And Jonesy, well, he looks like a bloke that's had an accident. He won't be too happy, I'll tell you. He'll get up here and he'll rant and rave. He'll give me the hard time. I'll get the hard time off Jonesy. But Johnny Bow, magnificent drive. He can't do any more. He got out in front and stayed there. Larry Perkins came from 9th on the grid, and what a charge through on this circuit. As slippery as it is with the walls that are there, it was just great.
Well, what we missed, of course, was Larry. The first 5 or 6 laps would have been sliding all over the place until the track dried enough for him to get the grip to press on in the degree that he did. So, I mean, sensational drive from Larry. JB didn't put a foot wrong, got out in front, led the race from there, dictated the pace, and, of course, blocked when he had to. And I think that's his first win, isn't it, Darryl? Well,
yeah, Johnny Bow's first win here. And, of course, there's a 10-lapper tomorrow morning. And I don't care what you say. I think the V8s around Adelaide, we've never had a bad race here.
No, that's true. They're all sensational. Plenty of action, very close. JB, I think, has finished second here 3 times. You know, he's sort of due for a win, and you know, what a job today. Yeah,
well, Johnny Bow, of course, having his first win. As we went through the list, Jimmy Richards has won here 5 times. Dick Johnson twice, along with Tony Longhurst. Larry Perkins has had a couple of wins here too, but Johnny Bow and the Shell team, they were terrific. Dick Johnson was in touch there for a while. He came together with Alan Jones, but Johnny Bow can't do anymore. And you can see the marshals. Everybody's just loved it, haven't they? I mean, they're all clapping and cheering the boys. Look at this. Terrific here. They're all really getting behind them. They realise the talent to throw these cars around on this circuit. So Jones got the fastest lap with a 1:53.37. So some consolation to AJ there. Johnny Bow, well done. Larry Perkins, you're a star. Talking about stars, here's Kenny.